Sweden is spending 4 billion on a new fleet of high-tech frigates. Yet almost immediately after the deal was announced, internet critics labeled these ships as obsolete before the deal was even cut. In the Black Sea, a handful of modified, low-cost watercraft managed to hunt down and sink massive, heavily armed warships. Today, commercial quadcopters are being weaponized with strapped-on explosives and steered by remote control into billion-dollar hulls. This highlights the looming economic trap for modern navies. Even when a multi-million-dollar ship perfectly executes its air defense mission and destroys an incoming drone, the defender takes a massive financial loss. Now multiply that single drone by 50 or 100. In a saturation attack, a swarm of cheap unmanned systems isn't necessarily trying to sink the ship outright. They are trying to deliberately empty a warship's finite physical missile magazines. Once those lance cells run dry, the ship becomes vulnerable to heavier, more lethal weapons. This lopsided equation threatens to turn massive surface combatants into giant floating targets. This forces us to ask the rather uncomfortable question: have giant, heavily armed surface ships become obsolete? Building a giant floating box loaded with expensive interceptors is a mathematical dead end when the enemy can outspend you by buying cheap electronics. By joining NATO, Sweden took on a massive strategic responsibility, securing the Baltic Sea against Russian submarines and surface fleets. Knowing full well how vulnerable traditional ships are to cheap swarms, the Swedish government just spent 4 billion on 4 new surface combatants. They purchased the French FDI. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. It's a French-designed platform, built with a specific architecture to counter the exact economic trap we just looked at. Sweden prioritized a platform that stops relying on finite supply of physical ammunition for its basic survival. The most obvious physical feature of the FDI is its inverted bow. Instead of riding up and over rough waves, it cuts directly through them, allowing the ship to maintain high speeds even in heavy Atlantic swells. To handle the low-cost swarm threats, the FDI utilizes active electronic warfare, specifically the Neptune and Majes digital jamming systems. These systems weaponize the electromagnetic spectrum. They project targeted radio frequency waves that sever the communication and navigation links of incoming drones, dropping them into the ocean before they ever reach the ship. This establishes a layered defense posture. The ship neutralizes cheap drones with electronics, reserving its heavy interceptors like the Aster 30 for high-altitude supersonic threats. This soft-kill approach repairs the broken economics of naval combat. Instead of launching a $2 million missile, the ship neutralizes a dozen of incoming drones using just a few cents worth of electricity. After all, there's no need to physically blow up a drone when you can just aggressively cyberbully its GPS and data link systems until it falls helplessly into the ocean. Relying on the electromagnetic spectrum is the only economically viable method to survive a high-volume, low-cost attack. Further north, the Swedish Navy must secure the Baltic Sea. This involves hunting ultra-quiet Russian Yasin-class submarines and detecting ballistic missiles launched from the coast. Sweden bypassed developmental designs from UK and Spain, selecting the FDI because its primary sensors, the Thales Seafire radar and the Captas 4 towed sonar, were already mature and operational. The ship's modular architecture allowed Sweden to customize the platform with domestic technology. They replaced the standard armaments with the Swedish Saab RBS-15 anti-ship missile. Sweden also integrated the domestic Bofors 57mm and the 40mm cannons on the French-built hull. The Swedish Navy prioritized a mature, sea-tested platform with an active production line. This guarantees the first fully equipped frigate enters service by 2030, a delivery timeline unproven designs could not match. Success in the Baltic relies on digital adaptability. The FDI gives Sweden a software-defined warship that can hopefully rewire its defenses to face the next generation of maritime threats. But I, for one, can't help to wonder if this really is the right choice going forward.